All right, Naxx is coming out soon, and there's a bunch of new items, and I wanted to make an easy list to show you which items are worth upgrading to over what you had for BIS for AQ40 if you're playing a Fury Warrior. This is mostly going to be covering Alliance side, but I will touch on the Horde items as well, and where some items are better on Horde than Alliance, just due to things like them not having the King's buff. We can start out with the weapons. So for Alliance, the mechanical servo arm drops off of trash, and this item is actually like a 5 DPS upgrade over a rank 14 sword and is kind of equivalent to a CTS. So if you don't have a CTS yet or you're not rank 14, you can go ahead and grab one of these. It's actually a non-unique item, so you could have two of them if you wanted. It's not particularly good to have one in both hands because they're the same speed, but again, you know, it's there. If you want this, it's a very strong weapon that you can pick up and fill a slot. Widow's Remorse, this is more of a tank item. It's going to be a downgrade for almost all DPS scenarios. It's strictly worse than Iblis. Don't pick this item up, don't put it on high prio. You can give it to a tank for an offhand. It's got a good speed for tanking. It'll be useful in that scenario. And if you're Edge Masters on Horde, don't even think about it. Obviously maces, if you're on Horde, there's really no way to use them. The Hatchet of Sundered Bone. This is an A tier item for Horde. It's like a 35 DPS upgrade over the rank 14 main hand axe and a bigger DPS upgrade over the AQ axe. And then you can have Cruel or a rank 14 weapon in the offhand. It's very, very solid, a very strong weapon. Not much to say here. If you're on Alliance and you've got Edgies at the Gold Miner's helmet, it's a perfectly acceptable main hand to use. Don't be afraid to ask for it if you've got Edgies, and then you can take something like King's Fall in the offhand, and you're going to do basically equivalent damage to someone with just one of the weapons off of KT. Iblis. Depends where you put it. I'm going to consider it an A tier weapon. Iblis is very, very strong in the offhand and potentially even in the main hand if you want to do some silly combo like Iblis plus Hungering Cold. The reason for this being if you have a very fast weapon in the main hand, you can do a ton of heroic strikes. Don't do this on Horde though. You will probably rip threat if you're just heroic striking all the time with a like 1.6 speed weapon. It's going to be crazy. Again, it's going to have some issues there in execute phase where you can either become rage starved or you can set off too many heroic strikes causing you to miss out on pressing your execute as soon as the GCT comes up. That's why we don't use too fast weapons, as well as missing out on trash damage, any AoE damage. It's not going to be good for that. As a pure offhand, though, for warriors, this is a very, very strong contender. You can use this with Gressel. It will be very, very good in the offhand. It's better than any option you have up until this point. It is the best in slot offhand if Hungering Cold is not available to you. The Castigator. This is another weapon that you could pair with Iblis in the main hand. Castigator is about a 30 DPS upgrade over the swords that were available up until this point for Alliance. Unfortunately, Horde cannot use this weapon. There's no good way to get +5 mace skill. But the Castigator is a very, very strong main hand weapon. Definitely worth picking up if you're not someone who's going to be getting a Gressel or a Hungering Cold. It's going to be the next best option for you in main hand. So there is potential that maybe you could pick up both Iblis and this item. If you do that, that would be better than getting one of the other items off of KT. Then we've got King's Fall. So it's hard to say with King's Fall because you kind of have to change up what you're wearing to get this to work. It's a great offhand if you're like a human or like a gnome or something and you're wearing Edge Masters and you have the Hatchet of Sundered Bone and then you have this. You can also do double daggers, but then you have two fast weapons. This sims very, very highly. It's an amazing weapon. It's almost like a 40 plus DPS increase, to be honest with you. But because I'm going to put it in the A tier, because even though it does sim very high, you do have to change out your gloves. You can't wear Annihilation with this. You'd have to wear Aged Core leather gloves or Edge Master's handguards. Those are kind of the options here. There are other places where you can get dagger skill, but those are kind of the best available options that you have. This causes King's Fall to go into the A tier for warriors. It's going to be better for rogues. Hungering Cold will be our first S tier option. This allows Horde players to go swords. However, it's very, very unlikely that as a Horde player, you're going to get both Gressel and Hungering Cold. So there's really no good slow sword to put in the main hand aside from like CTS. So if you want to do CTS Hungering Cold, that is a very strong option on Horde. Just know that you're limiting yourself on a second Naxx weapon as a Horde warrior if you're taking this. Because again, you probably do not want to be playing with Hungering Cold and Iblis due to the speed of both weapons. It is a massive upgrade for Alliance, though, because it pushes you over that 308 soft cap for weapon skill, and this is the strongest offhand weapon in the game, so your glancing blows with this are going to do insane damage on your offhand. So your offhand, it's going to glance most of the time, even with Heroic Strike queued for your main hand. I believe it's still 40% that it's going to glance, and then they're going to be reduced by about 5%. So I believe it's a 95% damage attack when this glances. So very, very strong. It is the best weapon in the offhand and can potentially be the best weapon in the main hand too, on some scenarios where you're using double fast weapons. Gressel. Gressel on Alliance is the best main hand. On Horde, because you're probably not getting Gressel and the Hungering Cold, this is almost more of a rogue weapon. Like you would want both of them and you could pass it out that way, but it's hard to get the sword skill unless you're either getting the Hungering Cold or going Edge Masters on Horde. So if you're someone who's got Gauntlets of Annihilation, this is kind of not an option for you unless you're getting double KT weapons, and that's going to take a long time. So for Horde, maybe you pass this to your Rogue and you take either the Axe or you take Hunger and Cold. Those might be stronger options for you. On Alliance, though, amazing weapon, best main hand of the game. It is a 30 DPS increase over CTS and rank 14. So it is just slightly better than the Castigator. It's not much better, so don't feel too bad if you don't get this weapon. Again, the Hunger and Cold is going to be the better simming weapon in both hands, surprisingly enough. Though again, for AoE reasons, you would want to be using a slower weapon in your main hand. Let's move on to ranged weapons here. So we've got Soul String. Soul String over is not really a big damage increase over the Larva of the Great Worm, which is your best DPS option in the range slot that comes off of Oro in AQ40. Really not much of an upgrade here. It has almost identical stats. I believe this has 16 AP, 1% crit, 16 or 18. And then Nerubian Slavemaker has more attack power that pushes it to be like a 10, 15 DPS upgrade. Not huge, but it is definitely better. Pick up Nerubian Slavemaker if you can, but don't feel bad if you have to take another weapon. It's not really going to make or break your damage. Ghoulskin Tunic. Our first A-tier armor piece. Ghoulskin Tunic gives you 40 strength and 2% crit. And because it has 2% crit and not 1% hit, it is actually simming ahead of the plated A-bomb ribcage. A-bomb ribcage has 5 more strength, so 10 more AP, but it has 1 less crit and it has hit. The more loot that we sim, the more we learn about Classic. We know that hit really doesn't matter that much. Hell, you can get like 2% hit off of food if you need it. And you're going to have hit from stuff like Lionheart Helm and a Nixie Tooth Pendant, Conqueror's Spalders if you're using those, Chromatic Boots. There's plenty of places to get hit, so you're not really looking for it. Once you've got 6%, you're heroic striking all the time. The hit is only benefiting your crit cap on your offhand, which you're probably not even hitting anyway. So hit is really not going to be pushing the needle for DPS. For that reason, Ghoulskin is better than plated A-bomb in my eyes. If your sim has it a different way and you like one over the other, feel free to prior them that way. My sim does show that the leggings of the Apocalypse, though, are worse than Leg Plates of Carnage. Leg Plates of Carnage they basically sim 20-25 DPS higher than the Conqueror's legs. Again, very, very strong. They've got 40 strength, 2% crit, almost like putting Ghoulskin Tunic on your legs. It's a great item. The leggings of the Apocalypse have something like 4% crit on Alliance when you take into account ZG and King's buff. It's got like 33 agility and 2% crit on this item. It has a lot less attack power and it is leather. So it is a very, very strong crit item, but it is not that much better, or sorry, it is not that much worse than the Leg Plates of Carnage. But I would consider Leg Plates of Carnage better because they are plate and they do sim a little higher. They have a lot more AP. Girdle of the Mentor. Again, it's simming it's like a 10 DPS upgrade over Onslaught Girdle. If you use Guybrush, it's about the same. So I'll put it here in C. If you've got an Onslaught Girdle, there's really not much of a reason to upgrade to the Girdle of the Mentor. If you don't have an Onslaught Girdle, obviously upgrade to this item. It's very, very, very strong. Sadist's Collar. This is not that good. It's a downgrade. It's basically just has half the attack power of the Hakar neck. Don't get this item. Not a very good item. Storm Rager's Talisman of Seething off of KT. I believe this is 26 attack power, 2% crit. That can go straight to the B tier. Very strong item. It's going to be an upgrade over Barb Choker and Oni Tooth. But it's not the biggest upgrade in the world. It's just, it will move your DPS needle. Now we get to the big boys, the trinkets. Kiss of the Spider, I'd say, is probably the best trinket. It's going to be more of a DPS upgrade than basically any other weapon. These tiers are not ranked by how much of a damage increase they are, but if they were, Kiss of the Spider would be right at the front. Like, this is definitely the best pickup in the game. On any fight where you can either use it twice or you are able to activate it for the majority of the fight, so anything under 30 seconds, it's going to be like 100%, 100 damage upgrade over a Diamond Flask. Very, very incredible item. You want to be prioing that. It's going to be the probable single biggest item that you can take to improve your DPS throughout the raid. The next one will be the Mark of the Champion, but this is obviously only for Naxx Ramus. This would be your other trinket. It gives you 150 attack power when fighting against undead and demons. Actually, this might just be undead, but 12 out of 14 bosses in Naxx are undead. So it's a pretty good item here. This thing is just constant attack power. It's amazing. Slayer's Crest, along the same vein as Kiss of the Spider, it sims high on very short fights, but it is still worse than Kiss of the Spider, so you would rather be using that one. Still better than Diamond Flask on short fights, better than Diamond Flask on extremely long fights. Fights around 1 minute exactly where Diamond Flask is getting full value. Slayer's Crest is probably going to be worse. Unless you're Horde side, where attack power is like slightly stronger than pure strength in some cases because you don't have the King's buff. Slayer's Crest could come out on top of you on Horde. It's probably a little stronger overall on Horde than Alliance. It is still an S tier because on many, many fights, this is going to give you over 40 DPS compared to other items. But I would say that it is worse than these two trinkets. The Cloak. It has a very cool skull on it, but unless you're on Horde, if you're on Horde side, it's probably in the B tier. If you're on Alliance side, it's here because Cloak of the Fallen God has so many stats on it that this really just isn't an upgrade anymore. Still a good item, but it's just not the strongest option. You can still take Cloak of the Fallen God and be happy with that. Band of Unnatural Forces. I'd put this probably in the B tier. Without world buffs, this is very good. On Horde side, this is maybe even an A tier item. On Alliance side, it's here. You would use this over your Quick Strike Ring or Ring of Karaji Fury, and you would use it alongside your Circle of Applied Force. This would be the best ring in the game if you could use two of them, but you can't. So you just put it here. Again, this is just, it's kind of a huge upgrade over Don Julio's band, right? It's like Don Julio's band with 40 more AP. It's just a crazy item. And then we've got the Wrist Guards of Vengeance. These are identical to Hive Defiler in terms of DPS, but they do give you more tank stats. So if you value survivability at all, this is kind of where you might pick this item. If you don't have Hive Defilers yet, you can definitely pick this item as well. But overall, this is kind of where every item is looking in Naxx as far as pure DPS. Again, ignore the bottom row. That's just some random stuff that was on this tier maker when I pulled it up. If you've got any questions or any comments, feel free to leave them. And I will make another Naxx gearing guide at some point in the future. And then hopefully all your questions will be answered there. Have a great day.